that you've already mentioned, Dr. Martin Luther King and Adam Clayton Powell, and let's see what you know about those individuals and how they fit into what we're trying to do at this particular time.
Right. Well, in the chapter on the Civil Rights Movement, I take up Dr. King and Adam Clayton Powell as a pillar of cloud and fire. Dr. King as a pillar of cloud, and and Adam Clayton Powell as a pillar of fire. And when I say pillar of fire, I mean someone who kind of brandished, if you will, his brashness, a boldness, a certain radical nature. Adam Clayton Powell was very clear while he was in Congress that he called himself the baddest Negro in Congress.
Yeah, go on.
Right. And he flouted the rules. He didn't stomach segregation. He didn't take kindly to the kinds of conventions that made African Americans second class. And part it had to do with his upbringing, had to do with who he was, but it also had to do with, I think, growing up in Harlem. And he really was, I call him, a son of the Harlem Renaissance. He was the new Negro, as I understand it, that the Harlem Renaissance writers had hoped for. He started one of the first boycotts of the public transportation system in Harlem. One of the first sort of public service programs at his church at Abyssinian Baptist Church. And by the time he went to Congress, he was pastoring the largest Protestant congregation in the nation. Adam Clayton Powell is known for his, he's not only known for his pastoral work, but he's known for the Powell Amendment, which was a little known sort of codicil that he would add to every bill that sent funding for public accommodations. And it was a bill that said that public funding could not be used for segregated institutions. It angered Southern segregationists throughout the country, but it also angered African Americans because some of those schools were African American schools in the South. Although they were segregated, they were starved because they also needed the public funding. But Clayton Powell didn't care. What he was concerned about was ensuring that those who wanted segregation had to pay for it. And so he starved them all to death until he was able to get the Civil Rights Bill in 1964. That was his victory in the Civil Rights Bill of 64. He was there when Lyndon Baines Johnson signed it, but so was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And King, who was, they were both princes of the Black Baptist Church. Adam Clayton Powell had attended school in New York. His father, in many ways, had groomed him to be a prince of the Baptist Church. Martin Luther King, as Dr. King's father. His father pastored Abyssinian, while Dr. King's father pastored Ebenezer, and they both groomed their sons for the roles that they would take. They both went to elite schools, Morehouse College in the South, and they both were products of the black middle class. But where they differed, I think, was Dr. King grew up in the segregated South, born right in 1929, just as America was going into the Great Depression. And Dr. King saw a different and a brutal side of white segregationist power. And it was something that I don't think Adam Clayton Powell saw. That shaped Dr. King in a way that Adam Clayton Powell didn't.
And led to his assassination.
Yes, and led to his assassination. Absolutely. In a sense, both of them were assassinated. Dr. King, literally. Good. Adam Clayton Powell was politically destroyed because of his brashness. So what I find with now, both of them come at a time when African Americans have migrated, and I think this is also important to make the making of these two figures. African Americans began to migrate immediately after the Civil War. Every 10 years, you look at the census, you see more and more African Americans migrating toward the west and toward the north, except for the 10 years during the Depression when you don't see much migration. But you see, and so African Americans migrated from rural communities in the South to cities in the South like Montgomery and Atlanta that created the possibility for a Montgomery bus boycott, but also created the possibility for an Abyssinian Baptist church, which was Adam Clayton Powell's political base, and which became for Martin Luther King the base for the Montgomery bus boycott and Ebenezer. And so as these two figures began to interpret the biblical text, they thought of the Exodus story for Adam Clayton Powell. The Exodus story guaranteed for African Americans in his sermon, "Stop Blaming Everyone Else," which he preached at Abyssinian Baptist Church in the 50s. It was a sermon that invited African Americans to fully participate in what it meant to be a citizen, take responsibility for what it meant to be a citizen.
He really pushed African Americans.
He pushed African Americans to take responsibility for it.